Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto. Let's have some fun today. First off, biggest, most important news of the week. Did you see the video of John Gruden jamming to Migos? He's just like, oh, yeah, I love these guys.
I love these guys. Oh, yeah, I love these. All of them.
Him just like hanging out at the Barstool headquarters is like your cool uncle coming to your frat for like spring break. Like he's just like idolized, but he's just like, oh, learning hip hop music and diet sodas. Kids these days, they can do some cool stuff.
I think you got that nacho cheese dip. I had to tell. So my aunt has a neighbor. He's just a goofy white dude, right? But he's a nice guy. And he's like, oh, I see you got that nacho cheese dip. And I'm like, it's just nachos, bro. Let's not add any extra stuff on top of it. Let's just call it nachos, all right? Oh, okay. You got me. I'm like, oh, yeah, it wasn't a question, dude.
Old guys describe young things the way old guys text. Like, I don't know, like my pops is straight up like, hello, RJ. Hello, comma, RJ, period. What are your plans for dinner on Sunday? ? I know that you'll be in town later. I believe. Let me know. Period.
Yeah, it's like
dad. You know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, that's like the dash dad.
Yeah, like I'm aware. As if he's like writing a letter from war in the 1800s. You know what I mean? Like he wants a pen with like a big feather on the end as he's like asking me like, hey, what's my granddaughter doing on Sunday?
My uncle's been away for a while, on like an extended vacation, like 15 years.
He went to college?
Got out like last year. Yeah, he went to college 15 years. College? He was in the Himalayas.
Is that how your family described it? Because Vicky's Mexican side, it's all like, oh yeah, he's in college for 3 to 5 years. They'll be out in 2 with good behavior. They always called it college.
No, we didn't really talk about it. I mean, we just said it straight up. But he texts because like he went away, like there was no texting and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And he comes back and he's like learning emojis and stuff. Like, what are you trying to say? Just don't talk in just straight emojis, okay? You got to say some words too.
I know you want an eggplant sandwich, but that doesn't mean what you think it means.
Yeah, that's not.
Sorry.
So quarter week actually had what do you call it? Deep fried eggplant.
I can't eat it anymore after the fact that it's a penis emoji. It just
if it's sliced and a deep fried, a little sauce, a little marinara on top, it's pretty delicious.
It's just like a mental block about it. I just want to sit on it. You know what I mean? I don't want to eat it.
You still eat hot dogs.
Yeah, I still sit on eggplants.
The long way.
Heard it sideways. Who was it? Was it the Josh? Was that a Josh McDaniels meme?
Josh McDaniels eats corn on the cob long ways. That's a good one.
So the Raiders, it sucks not having a quarterback, but it makes off-season ridiculously interesting. And we've been quarterback purgatory until again, Mr. Sideways eating corn on the cob guy let Carr go for nothing because he had a bellyache with him. And we've been looking for a quarterback ever since. We've had basically everyone play for us except anyone good. With Tom Brady and Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly and some second most cap space, third most draft capital, I think there's reason to be optimistic that we can get a semi-decent quarterback. Now, I think it's going to be a free agent quarterback. It's possible we can still trade. It's possible Shador or Cam fall to us at 6. I didn't think it was possible. I've seen multiple drafts with Shador falling to 6. So what do I know? Maybe, it just feels like last season when we thought, oh yeah, maybe like we can trade up in the second and get Michael Penix. But every quarterback's gone by 50. All 6 quarterbacks are gone by 15. I think the same thing's going to happen this year, but we'll see. These guys are draft experts. Maybe they know something I don't. I just feel like there's going to be a run at quarterback because there is every single draft. I think Jackson Dart's going in the first. I don't think Shador Cam can be available to us by 6. I think there's going to be a run.
Well, the thing is it's really hard to say now because there are a lot of veteran free agent quarterbacks out there. This draft class isn't looked at as an extremely strong draft class. Mm-hmm. So until a lot of the dust settles from that first wave of free agency, it's really I don't want to say it's pointless, but it's really difficult to do even a semi-accurate mock, because after that first wave of free agency, a lot of these quarterback needy teams are going to have their kind of, quarterback for the now already on their team, and they're not going to want to spend a first round pick on a guy that, they're not super high on anyway. So that's why it's kind of difficult right now. I think that if we kind of sit where we are with a lot of these quarterbacks that we're going to talk about, if they kind of switch around to new teams in that first wave of free agency, I think we're going to have a good chance of getting, one of the two guys.
I mean, we should definitely get one of the, and to your point, I think I don't think most of these free agent quarterbacks we're going to talk about will dissuade teams from drafting a quarterback high, in my opinion. I think one of them for sure, you'll be like, okay, he's young enough and good, we'll pay. But even like, spoiler alert, like Kirk Cousins, Falcons literally did that, right? They signed him and then at a first round quarterback. The Bears had Justin Fields and they got Caleb, right? So it's like, again, there was time going on, so they knew he wasn't their guy. But to my point, I don't think these quarterbacks would make anyone not still draft. But that's to be seen. So we're going free agency quarterbacks. So not drafting and not trading. It's possible we could also trade for somebody, but for simplicity's sake, we're going with free. And we went with the 6 most likely free agent quarterbacks that we would pick up, because whoever number 7 is, I think he's a very, very, very distant number 7. So like Derek Carr's not in this. Jameis Winston isn't in this.
Flacco.
Flacco. Yeah. Like all the kind of there's a lot of guys that are technically available. Right. Like there's guys that are technically available that honestly, I have no doubt by like 3/4 of the way through the season, when all the quarterbacks get injured, they'll be somewhere. But as far as Raiders like this guy enough where we're going to make a move on him in the next few months, and this quarterback will be at worst in the running to be the starter week 1, depending on what happens elsewhere, right? Like every one of these 6 guys, if the Raiders picked him up, would for sure be in the running to be the week 1 starter. And these are the 6 that we think would be the most likely in no particular order: Zach Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, just got released, Justin Fields, free agent, Russell Wilson. Kirk Cousins isn't technically a free agent right this second, but he's going to get released any moment. He has like a $40 million roster bonus coming. He gone, right? He'll be a free agent. And then Sam Darnold. So Soto, do you want to go first or second? I want you to pick one that you're going to vouch for. I want you to pick one you're going to just veto. And I want you to pick one that's going to be a sleeper. Or do you want to ping pong?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Vouch for, I would vouch for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
I think towards the end of the season, he played pretty well. I think a little bit further removed from that Achilles injury.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's one of the reasons why Atlanta picked Penix, was because they knew, okay, if Kirk Cousins isn't all the way back from that injury, because he, same injury, and he just wasn't himself. So I would vouch for.
And Rodgers is 4 years older too, right? So it's like it would make sense for him to take even longer.
So Aaron Rodgers,
you evolved on that, because I think like 2 weeks, 1.5, 2 weeks ago, you were a lot colder on Rodgers.
Oh, I was just shit talking to that guy.
Okay. Because you made sense. I was like, no, I think you're making sense. And this is constantly evolving. Like my sleeper, I didn't even cross my mind like 10 days ago that he could maybe even come to the Raiders. But now I'm kind of like, I think I would like it.
I think my veto would be Russell Wilson. Russell. He kind of showed who he was. He's a lot more limited without the ability to use his legs the way he wants to. He's not nearly as effective as he was early in his career. I think he's okay, but I think out of the two, even though he's a little bit older, I think Aaron Rodgers is just a better overall player. Mm-hmm. And my sleeper is actually Zach Wilson. Mm-hmm. I think for the skill set that he has, look, context matters when it comes to quarterbacks. we have to take a look at the whole entire thing, not just the fact that, oh, this guy sucks. Well, no, he doesn't suck. There are things he needs to work on. There's no perfect prospect out there. There's no perfect quarterback or player out there.
Especially free agent quarterbacks. Like, they're a free agent for a reason. You know what I mean?
You have to be able to identify certain things. It's not like Sam Darnold just automatically became this way better player. He was put into a position where he was able to learn and work on some things under a really good quarterback coach in Kyle Shanahan with San Francisco. And then he went to an equally good, offensive coach in Kevin O'Connell over in Minnesota. He also is throwing to probably like the best receiver in the league in Justin Jefferson, and then also another very, very good receiver in Jordan Addison. I mean, so he was put in a better position. He has one of the best lines out there in the NFL. So, yeah, he was put in a good position, and he was given things that he can do well. He was, when the team stopped running the ball, he got worse. That sound like he's a unique snowflake when that happens? No, it's like most quarterbacks, if you can't run the ball, it's going to be tough going for him. But so I see that as a position for Zach Wilson. He has a lot of the skill set that you're looking for in a Chip Kelly offense. He's mobile. He can throw on the run. He has a nice live arm. I think that a lot of the RPO game and a lot of the things that Chip Kelly does to manipulate the defense gives the quarterback very linear looks where he doesn't have to read the entire field. He can just read short to deep or deep to short, depending on what the route combination is, and it makes it easier for the quarterback to identify where to go with the ball. If you do that with somebody who has the talent like Zach Wilson, he is a talented quarterback. It's just between the ears and needs to get figured out, and that's why he's my sleeper.
I thought we'd have completely different sleepers, and I was getting ready to knock your dick off with my sleeper pick, but yeah, I'm Zach Wilson. And he wasn't even on my radar a week and a half ago until I was like very seriously looking at these, because you saw how bad he played, the whole thing with being a mom fucker. He just looked completely out of his element. That was in my mind. Nothing wrong with it. In Vegas, it's going to get you in trouble, right? Or it's the place to do it. I don't know. It's either the perfect place or worst place to do it. But that was just like, again, that was just in my mind, right? I'm just like an orangutan. It's like the last thing in my mind, and that's what I think of him. And then I'm like, wait a minute. The Jets are actually really good at picking quarterbacks. They just suck in developing them. You look at the last few quarterbacks, right? Sam Darnold, right? Or let's start with Geno Smith, right? Drafted by the Jets. His worst passer rating of the second half after he left the Jets is better than his best passer rating with the Jets. I repeat. He literally, the very, very best he can do as a Jet was his worst showing on a season basis everywhere else he's been. He goes to a stable, well-run franchise, the Seahawks, and now he's a franchise quarterback. He's a solid starting NFL quarterback, a guy that was given up on all shitty on the Jets. Sam Darnold, almost exactly the same case. I think he had one season with the Jets that was better than one season he had elsewhere. It's just the Jets, just dog shit. Aaron Rodgers, worst season with the Jets. It's just like the Jets pick good quarterbacks. It's the new Chicago Bears. It's just where quarterbacks go to die. It's where quarterbacks go to die. And so with that backdrop, it's like you cannot take anything that happened at the Jets as fully on the shoulders of Zach Wilson. You can't, because it's been proven time and time again. You go to the Jets, you will suck as a quarterback. It's like without fail. It's uncanny.
It sucks. It's a weird thing when you take a look at how they drafted. Like it's not like they haven't put a lot of high capital into their offensive line. They've drafted a lot of. I mean, they're building the team like you would want to build a team, right? Like go outside and just the people that you meet every day. How many 6'3" to 6'5", 300-pound athletic guys do you meet? Not very many. So you want to bulk up those guys and get those guys, and you can get some of the skill position players a little bit later, stuff like that. They spent a lot of their capital on offensive and defensive line, and I mean premium picks, like first second day, early second day picks they spent on their lines. It's just they haven't been able to put it together. The coaching's been a little shaky. Just impatience with the I mean, I'm sure we all know about this, the coaching carousel, stuff like that.
They had arguably the most talented defense in football 2 seasons ago.
Dude, and it's just weird that they just have the drop off that they've had. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but ultimately it doesn't have to make sense. The proof is it's on the field.
It's and I think that's so often the mistake people make when they're like, oh, this quarterback, this is the guy. Is he the guy? No, he's not the guy. It's like there's a 9 million other variables. There's so many other. We always talk about like well-run franchises. Like it sounds like some kind of abstract voodoo, like, oh, it's dust in the wind. It's not tangible. I don't have a stat for that. I don't have a metric for like a well-run franchise. But it means something, man. Like everyone's had jobs where you're at an office where it's like, this place runs pretty well. Everyone respects the boss. People are respectful to each other, show up on time, more or less. There's drama. Not everything's perfect. I wish I was paid more, but more or less everyone's working together with the same goal. And it's okay. And then you're in places that are just toxic wastelands. Everyone's out to stab each other in the back. Everyone's just looking for credit. No one cares what the end product is. Everyone just wants to get out of there as soon as possible. The clock strikes 5:01 p.m. They're sprinting to the parking lot.
Yeah, everyone's out of there.
That matters. Like that shit is real life. And so often we try to think, football players, like their job is nothing like ours. Like it's very similar in a lot of ways.
Yeah,
and clearly
sure.
the Jets have proven that they're that kind of place. And in fairness, the Raiders have proven to be kind of close to that as well until this whole new sweeping regime. Sweeping regime comes in. That's the reason for this optimism is the guys who set culture and make those decisions are all brand new. And the guy that's been the consistent one, Mark Davis, has kind of rescinded his decision power to Tom Brady.
Yeah, taking a step back. I mean, well, the thing is, look, you can't keep putting Band-Aids on things and just hoping for things to get better. And I credit Mark Davis for continuing to try new things. Now, did he make the best decisions with those people that he tried to do new things with? No. He had the opportunity to kind of reset the market after the John Gruden thing fell apart. We've seen for a long time that Mark Davis does not want to have these decisions. In 2018, when he hired John Gruden, he gave him full power over everything because he didn't want to make the decisions anymore. Here, you do it, right?
Yeah.
When Gruden got forced out, he had to figure something else out. And he said, well, let me try a guy from a proven winning organization. 2 guys, actually. That didn't work out. Okay, well, let me try the hot hand that I didn't do the last time. Let me try it this time. That didn't work out. So he's trying new things. He's trying different things. Okay, instead of trying different things, why don't you try what the successful teams do and get good coaches who make sound decisions and good executives who have extensive experience in all levels of GMing and scouting, right? Mm-hmm. And just get the best people you can for the job. So I do credit Mark Davis for that. And that just doesn't seem what the Jets are doing. The Jets have been just kind of bouncing around and, just kind of taking those big home run swings. And that's really what put us in a bad spot when Al Davis was kind of, rounding third and headed home because he just kept trying to slap. I mean, basically, we were the Saints his last year of life. We're in cap hell. I remember Stanford route. Remember that freaking contract that we gave that dude? Mm-hmm. It was freaking nuts. People like veterans would just jokingly say, "Oh, the Raiders is a team you go to get paid before you go to your last stop."
Yeah,
So, I mean, they're doing it a lot themselves. Maybe something's going to change. I mean, Woody Johnson's still the owner, so who knows? But it just seems like it's a tough situation over with the Jets, and that's why I didn't want to take a look at that. I didn't want to take a look at how well he did because of the situation he was in. Unless, it's very difficult to defend a guy who's been in a losing situation when they've been there for like a decade. It's like, all right, dude, well, come on. Yeah. But if a guy's been there for a short period of time, okay, maybe there is something there still. We've seen that plenty of times where guys kind of had hit their stride a little bit later. Because these are like what 21-year-olds getting drafted. Like it takes a little bit of time sometimes.
Yeah, they're like 23, 24 now after like the COVID and
The COVID. Well, that's
the
going to stop after this year.
redshirts.
After this year,
That's
that's going to stop.
it's a wild one. Yeah, so again, for the same reason, Zach Wilson's my sleeper, only because like I think we need to wipe clean. We need to Men in Black the red light in our eyes of what he did at the Jets, because it's just treat him as a slightly older quarterback coming out of college, because that's, and again with Chip Kelly, it's like Zach Wilson had 10 rushing touchdowns his senior year. Like again, he's not Justin Fields, but again, you don't have to be Michael Vick in Chip Kelly's run game. You just have to be a threat. You need to be able to, right? If it's the reads there, the DN crashes and it's green grass, go get those 10 yards and then slide. You know what I mean? Like you don't have to be Michael Vick, but you got to be a threat and know what to do. And he did. Like he's ran not a similar, he won elements at BYU that were similar. He can throw a deep ball if you need him to, but he can just disperse it to the better athletes as well. So yeah, same sleeper in Zach Wilson. I didn't get very creative at all with my vouch. Sam Darnold, the best one available on free agency. He's going to be the most expensive one in free agency. Only 29 years old, so he's not like the stopgap like a Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, Aaron Rodgers, but he's not we're going to get him for pennies, a brand new guy. Let's see what we can get. Let's see if we can turn something out of nothing like Justin Fields and Zach Wilson. So again, not being very creative. I wish I had something clever for you. He's just the best one, most money. He can run a Chip Kelly offense, experienced, coming from a great offense. First round talents. Yeah, just standard answer. I honestly don't have any of these six. I would pound the table to veto and say, absolutely not. This guy's terrible. But I will say, I think Kirk Cousins is getting ready to call it. I think he's I think he's sticking around for the sake of sticking it around. When he succeeded, it was often because he was on very successful teams that succeeded after him. Again, he's unquestionably proven that when he's at his best, he's been better than these randoms. You know what I mean? Like he's certainly proven that he has a high basement, which I appreciate, which is why I don't want to veto him. I want to be irate if it's like, Kirk Cousins is bullshit, blah, blah, blah. We should also probably get him for cheap because he has so much guaranteed money coming from his last team. And I didn't veto Russell Wilson. I had the exact same concerns you do. But I do think that Pete Carroll knew how to handle Russ. He knew how to handle him, keep him disciplined. I'm not saying I think Zach Wilson we need to immediately sign. He'll be a star for us. He's a sleeper. Russell Wilson, Kirk Cousins, it's like, okay, it's stopgap that maybe will be successful for a couple. Like best case scenario, we get 2 good seasons out of them. Best case scenario, and we'll have to pay. What's Russell's cap thing? Would we still get him for pennies this year because of all the guaranteed money, or would it be?
I mean, it would be a little bit more than last season, but he still has a lot of guaranteed money.
Still, yeah, right.
Here's my concern. My concern with Russell Wilson, really quick. These are the final 5 games of last season.
Mm-hmm.
He scored 13 points, 17, 10, 17, 12, 3, 17. Mm-hmm. That's my issue. Yeah. He could have had some decent stats as far as, completion percentage, like whatever. That doesn't matter. He wasn't able to put up points late in the season when it mattered. Mm-hmm. And he even though he was hurt at the beginning of the year, didn't play the entire season, you can tell he was wearing down as the season went on.
Yeah.
And the style of play that he has, he needs to be able to be more mobile in order to be more effective. And he just isn't. He's not as mobile as he's been. And that's one of the reasons why the whole let Russ cook thing didn't work after he left Seattle, because he just was older and more injured, and he was like the highest running quarterback.
It works in bursts when you're preparing for a normal Pete Carroll offense. He's going to run the ball a whole bunch, going to play good defense, every now and then throw it deep. But then you're just like, oh, they're letting Russ cook. Okay, that caught us off guard. Remember, it let Russ cook lasted like 4 weeks. And then defensive coordinator's like, oh, he wants to cook? Easy.
Okay.
But
hang back,
great.
Watch him throw you the ball.
Great. We don't have to worry about the run game. We don't have to, oh, perfect. Okay. Please cook. Because you're going to burn it.
It's not a... It's not.
It's a break glass in case of emergency. It isn't your offense. Is what Russ Cook should be, even at his best. We didn't talk about Justin Fields which I think says something. No one is like really high or really low on no one. You know what I mean? Just it's like okay, same kind of like at the Jets. You're at the Bears with.
I wouldn't hate
Jetsy as your Fields. OC.
I wouldn't hate Justin Fields. I wouldn't hate it. I'd be very concerned because there's still some holes in his game. But I do think that if he's going to run a style of offense, I think a Chip Kelly offense would be something very similar to like the advantages it has for Zach Wilson. It's going to give him easier reads, the ability to use his legs more, stuff like that. But he's just not very accurate in the intermediate passing game. And I don't know if that's going to be very beneficial having a guy like Brock Bowers who thrives in the intermediate passing game. If you're not accurate in those passes, like short and long, yeah, he's fine. The intermediate game is where he struggles, and that's where we need it the most.
Yeah, I mean his issues have been clear. He is the best by far running quarterback of the bunch, which would be fun. You'd be like, okay, at least we know what his strength is, and hopefully that'll open up the pass game. With Chip Kelly's run game is as cool as we're all kind of hoping and anticipating. So I think that gives him a little bit of a leg. And again, I'm surprised you chose Aaron Rodgers. I like it. I think again, Pete Carroll can handle an ego like Aaron. Chip Kelly's making $6 million as OC. He's not going to let it. Even Aaron Rodgers isn't going to come in there and tell Chip what to do. He's like, dude, I'm the highest paid coordinator in football. What are you like?
Those two guys
together, tell me what to do?
Oh yeah, for sure. I agree 100%. Aaron Rodgers goes in there and he has to respect the resume of Pete Carroll. He has to respect the resume of Chip Kelly. He's not going to go in there and take over practice, take over film sessions, because guess what? Uncle Tommy's going to walk by, put his hand on his shoulder and be like, hey, do you have this many rings? Okay, shut the fuck up. There's 3 people there that, as great as Aaron Rodgers' tenure's been, for what they do, they're better at it. So
if you want Alan Lazard here, he can buy a ticket like everybody else.
Yeah, we're not bringing that guy in. Sorry. We're not going to bring in freaking
none of his guys. None of his guys.
Bumps. Like, no, you're not a GM. This is John Spytek. He's going to, negotiate with your agent, and then you're not going to talk to him anymore. You're going to talk to us. So, and I think it would work out in that perspective. Also, I don't hear a lot of Jets players, or I don't hear a lot of Jets players talking bad about Aaron Rodgers. So it's not like he was rubbing his teammates the wrong way, unless I missed something. But I just think it was almost like the Russell Wilson thing with Nathaniel Hackett. They kind of bowed down to him a little bit too much, and he took advantage of it because he's an egomaniac.
Well, he let him bring in his guys. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, Hackett, Devontae, Lazard. Like he's just bringing in his yes men around him. And in fairness, like Aaron Rodgers does have a style of quarterbacking where you got to know, like you almost have to read his mind to be able to be a wide receiver for him. He'll just like look at you and be like, you have to know what that means. And if you do, great. Like Aaron Rodgers has proven he's a fucking phenomenal quarterback, right? If you can get, like, it took Devontae Adams several seasons to be able to get on board with Aaron and like read each other's minds and run exactly what you want him to do. So there was some legitimate X's and O's for why Aaron wanted to bring in his guys, but it created a bigger problem than what it brought. And he brought in shot guys mostly. So, all right. And again, we're not saying throw everything at Zach Wilson. He's going to make us Super Bowl champions. We're not saying do whatever it takes to get Aaron Rodgers to make us Super Bowl champions. With the 6 guys available in free agency, most realistically, this is who we'd vouch for, this is who we'd veto, and here's like a sleeper that I don't think anyone's thinking about that I think has higher upside than people would think.
Yes, sir.
It's always nice. I don't know about you, Soto, but my Charger buddy, Bronco buddy, Chiefs buddy, football buddies, like they always like to bring up like, oh yeah, you Raiders. It's like your players are trash, your fans are trash, you're just always behind bars, just terrible people. It felt really, really, really good to see Richie Incognito vindicated. It felt great.
Yeah, it did. It really
144 page blasphemous lie, all because some young buck who couldn't hack it didn't want to lose his signing bonus. And it lasted years. It's followed him for years, and it will follow him. It happens every time, right? Like the New York Times puts like some wrong thing in the headline on the first page, and if they find out they're wrong, 4 days later, it's on page 37D saying, "Oh wait, sorry, we got that wrong." Right? So this is still going to follow Richie. Sorry
about that.
Still going to follow Richie Incognito everywhere. But yeah, there was a story out that Richie Incognito, remember, he bullied that player at the Dolphins and he just drove him nuts and he had to quit because Richie Incognito was just up his ass. Turned out to all be bullshit. That player admitted, nope, not true. Not true at all. It's all made up. Didn't happen. And Richie Incognito was vindicated, but it's like anything. Like you'll never get that time back. He lost all that time. It's like going to jail and then being let loose. It's like, oop, our bad. It's like, well, I was in prison 5 years. Like, there's nothing you can do to give me back those 5 years. I watched my kid go from 5 to. I didn't get to watch my kid go from 5 to 10. Nothing you can do.
Yeah, it's a shame, and like the real sad part for me is initially Richie Incognito was defending himself, and then it just was such a bad look because nobody believed him, of course. And he was just getting so much backlash for defending himself. I think he missed a year of playing, right? He didn't play for a year. So he just kind of sat back and just said, okay, you know what? The people that matter know this isn't true. So let's just say screw it and move on. And he did.
I don't know about you, but I remember when Gruden brought him in to be a Raider. My Charger Bronco buddies were like, oh, typical. Yeah, this piece of shit bullier. Yeah, of course he's going to be a Raider. No,
everyone loves him.
Everyone loves him. Phenomenal teammate. You listen to him on podcasts. He's hilarious. He's great. Everyone backed him up.
What got me was nobody else had anything bad to say about him.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, yeah, I wasn't going to pound the table for a guy I've never met.
I mean, there was a 144-page report that said it. So, okay, wow, some guys, the NFL spent a lot of money to make sure that all the T's are crossed and they dotted all the lowercase J's and they talked to all the people. And, we were the idiots that believed it. You're like, it's like, why should I not? They did the whole investigation. I never met the guy before. It's like, okay, I guess it's true. But it goes to show you two things. First off, when like the feds or an investigator or a cop or someone is looking for you to be guilty, they'll find a reason. They'll find a reason, right? Like if they dig enough,
they'll Gestapo a reason.
They'll get like federal prosecutors in this country have like a 97% conviction rate.
That's why it was so crazy that Vince McMahon was like cleared for that steroid trial. I'm like, dude,
gotta have
get off
right connections, man. You gotta have the right connections. And two, it's also a very good example of someone outside of football looking at football from a corporate point of view, an attorney point of view, and not football point of view doesn't understand it. Like, I have no doubt that Richie, beat the fuck out of him in, one-on-one drills and yelled at him when he didn't get his assignment and, hey, pussy, get up. We're not done yet. Finish the sprints. You can't squat more than that. Like, I bet you that happened. That's football. That's what a good leader does in football. It's like, I remember
did that to 12 other guys, too.
Yeah. And they all appreciated it because they could hack it. And then Richie's trying to make them better. I remember my old producer at SiriusXM. Great producer, this girl. Young producer, superstar. I remember like explaining, like she was talking about how like upset, how bad a team is because the NFL players were fighting in practice. It's like, oh, that's such a sign of dysfunction. That's so bad. It's like a hard, good practice is you're 99% of the way to a fight. Like I'm trying to, especially like O-line on D-line drills, like I'm trying to blow you off that line. I'm trying to knock your head off. And you're trying to do that to me. And if you slow down, you're not making me better. If I slow down, I'm not making you better. It doesn't look like a football game. It doesn't look like a real life game of football. And so it's natural for what's already basically a sanctioned fight to raise 5% past the line. Natural. And you can get way past the line, and we've seen it. But normally it's like you get 5, 10,
Aaron Donald swinging people's helmets around and stuff.
Yeah, like it could get, there are examples of it going above the line. But just kind of like, oh, I'm really pissed, and we shove each other for 5 seconds, and 2 guys throw a punch that doesn't really land. It's like, yeah, that's natural, normal.
That happens.
But that happens in football. But to her credit, she's just like a nice, wonderful young lady that wants peace, wants everyone to be happy. She's like, oh my God, this is terrible. Like, why would they do that? It's like, I get it. You don't understand. It's a scuzzy business. And so that's what these investigators saw. They're like, whoa, this guy's bullying everybody. He's like, no, he's being a leader on an NFL team as one of their best linemen.
Yeah, it's just you can't put real world logic into a non-real world setting. Like a football team isn't the real world. A sporting team, a fight team locker room, like that's not a real world. Like you don't try to strangle your friends. Yeah. Normally you don't try to elbow your friends in the face. Like that's not something that people normally do. It's a different setting, and you can't put the same boundaries and logic on those different situations. And if you don't understand it, if you've never been in it, and I try to say this again, like I've said this to a lot of women that I've met that were like, high level athletes, some of them, it's not the same. It just isn't. A lot of the kind of things that are done in a women's locker room are more kind of like women in real life, like gossiping and like teasing and stuff like that, where it's like in guys it's just physical. Like a lot of the time it's physical or just demeaning. It's not very subtle. So it just if you're not used to that, like when somebody at the gym, a woman gets kind of like, oh, I can't believe they said that or whatever. I'm like, did you have brothers growing up, like older brothers or something? Like, no, okay, you don't get it. Like that's nothing. Like they were toning it down because you were around. Like they've said way worse.
So I don't know about you, but I haven't seen any of these people involved apologize to Richie Incognito. Say, hey, we got it wrong. I'm sorry. Everything I said about you, I'm sorry. I don't think I came down on Richie Incognito when Saul came out, but if I did, I apologize, because if I did, I was wrong. And a lot of people owe Richie Incognito an apology. And yet another reason why I think John Gruden should be vindicated for not the emails, but remember he got a lot of shit for bringing Richie in. He's like, oh, this guy's cancer to the team, and he's a bully. It's like, nope. Like John Gruden was strong enough to say, like, fuck the media, fuck you guys saying what I should do. Like, I know he's a good player. I know he's a good teammate. I don't care about the outside pressure. I'm going to do what's best for football. And Gruden was a lot of things, not a good general manager, but he always did do what he thought was best for the team. It was usually wrong roster-wise, but he wasn't like, oh, I better appease this guy. I better politic this guy. It's like, nope, I think this is going to make the team better.
He didn't have those Gruden lenses. He saw things through that Gruden eye. But look, I'm not excusing anything that John Gruden did, because we don't understand the context of how the things were said. Because there's a Bill Burr bit, right, that he said, ladies, there's no, right, and there's, oh my God, no, stop it, what are you doing? Oh, you're so bad. And it's like if you go to a courtroom and they read it back, like the stenographer's like, okay, the lady said, no, stop it, you're so bad, this is wrong, no, stop. It's like, no, she didn't say it like that. So again, I'm not saying that it was excused or it's right or wrong. We don't understand. Like I said before, context matters. And there's a lot of things said in the locker room that if you saw read out in word form, it could,
Your
if
Honor,
someone
she said
texts
all
you
that with her finger in my ass. Come on. Context
if
matters.
if someone texts you what people tell you, like in a locker room setting, and you don't know who the person is, you're like, who the hell is this person texting me this nonsense?
Your Honor, how do you know the man on that, the voice of that man is not Mr. Cole himself? Oh, you're such a better lover than my husband. What movie is that from?
It's a good one.
Let us know in the comment section. A couple, we'll just rapid fire some Raiders news. It seems like Chip Kelly is now having his very first influence on the roster. Kyle Phillips, wide receiver at UCLA when Chip was there, drafted by the Titans, got released. Now he's picked up. He's like a borderline making the roster, practice squad guy. He'll probably make the roster. How much of the field he sees, we'll see how we do at wide receiver. But I forgot how good he was at UCLA. He's fourth in receptions in UCLA history, and he can punt return. He's like Hunter Renfro-ish, much better athlete, a little bigger,
the new Hunter Renfro.
Yeah, kind of Hunter Renfro-ish,
Yeah,
got some wiggle to him.
But the same size. He made the team with the Titans as a punt returner, but he fumbled 2 punts, and they're like, dude, look. Mm-hmm. You're not seeing the field as a receiver. You're here as a special teams guy because of your hands, and you're fumbling. Yeah, you got to go. So unless he kind of figured that out, I mean, the issue that I have, he's got small hands, sub 9-inch hands. He's got sub 30-inch arms. He has small hands, short arms. That doesn't normally, equal ball security. You want to have a little bit more length to cover the ball and secure it. So, if they can carve out a little bit of a niche for him to be a specialized type of receiver, he is very Hunter Renfro-esque, where he's quicker than he is. He's not very fast. I mean, he's quicker than he is fast, and he's shown to have good hands in the receiving game. Could be that type of guy. The fact that he's familiar with Chip Kelly and his offense is a plus for him, but I just don't see him making any big waves.
He's a scrap heap guy, getting the minimum, that knows the system, 25 years old.
Makes sense. Going to help all the receivers out, yeah.
Bring him in. But again, only newsworthy, it's Chip Kelly's first pickup. And there's not a ton of UCLA skill players floating around, right? So the few ones that are out there, it makes sense. He's like, all right, I think this guy, he'll know. Let's bring him in, see what he can do, blah, blah, blah. So they announced what the salary cap will be. It jumped up $10 million. They're projecting it to be $272 million. So you do the math, bing, 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 bong. The Raiders will have almost $100 million in cap space. The NFL is just an ATM machine, man.
Dude, it's everywhere they turn. A new streaming system is giving them just an insane amount of money. Mm-hmm. Now they got that. What was it? Netflix coming up next?
Netflix is rumored to pick up an afternoon game, like a regular.
Yeah, that's crazy, dude. If Netflix gets into the game, it's going to be so freaking nuts. Netflix is a global freaking phenomenon. Everybody that I know that watches TV watches Netflix. Everybody, and it's basically the cable company, like around the world. Like everybody has Netflix. And dude, if Netflix, that's just an insane amount of freaking money, dude.
It has the money. It has the three things the NFL covets the most: a metric shit ton of cash. So it's like, all right, NFL, here's $1 bajillion, right? You mentioned international reach. The NFL is just trying to go international.
They're everywhere,
and
dude.
Right? So it's like they can negotiate to have Netflix just handle the games in Australia, Germany, Japan. Like they might make more negotiating each one of those, where they're at and make more sense. But how easy is it for the NFL to just be like, Netflix handle 60% of international? Like, we know you know what you're doing. You guys do it, right?
If I was the NFL, I would just sell the international to Netflix and not have to deal with it on your own. You already have you're already making the product. It's not going to cost you anything more to make the product. It's costing you more to put it out internationally. You might as well just sell those rights to Netflix and have them do it. They already have the platform.
Well, it's a conservation thing, right? So like instead of I don't know, Globo in Brazil and Sky Sports in the UK and Fox Sports Australia in Australia, it's like each one of those places needs their own desk guy and announcer, and as long as it's English speaking, right? It can all be the same shit. There is differences in far as like, look, the NFL can have like, Globo has way more reach in Brazil than Netflix, so maybe it makes more sense and they can just pay more. Like, but the point being, as Netflix potentially grows, it could be just real simple, just international at all. And three, like you mentioned, Netflix is becoming almost like the home channel we had when we channel surfed. Like when I would come home from work, the channel would just almost always be on ESPN. I had my cable box and I turned it on. It was just like, I fell asleep watching Sports Center last night, and now that's what it's on, and that's kind of where my eyes go first. Netflix, like you turn on Netflix homepage, you'd like this, this is trending top 10. Like that's the new kind of like channel surfing, right? And like you said, like Netflix was never a place for people who watch sports. Now you have access to a whole new market that wouldn't be scrolling through CBS and Fox on a Sunday, isn't going to go to NBC on a Sunday night. They're not going to do that. They're not going to stumble on the NFL. Now they're going to stumble on the NFL because they're putting on Netflix. That stumble on factor is legit.
The Netflix Endeavor contract that they came into for WWE, that's making them both a freaking shit ton of money. Mm-hmm. They're both making money like crazy. And I can see the NFL being packaged worldwide, similar to the way Netflix is packaging the WWE worldwide with the network. And it's just freaking crazy how much money they're making. Like any smart TV that you buy, the remote is gonna have a Netflix button. Mm-hmm. The other ones can change. The other ones can be like Hulu and this and these other streaming companies, Amazon. I know a couple of them are like my Samsung TV. There's three buttons in like the Samsung TV guide. Another one that I have in the living room, it's Netflix is one, Hulu's the other one. And so my chick has Netflix is one, and like there's like a bunch of different other ones, but Netflix is always just a one touch button away from being on your TV. It's always Netflix and something else.
For me, it's Stream East. Oops, who said that? Also, Raider news.
What's that?
What? Happy Trails. Champ Kelly out as Raiders assistant general manager. He took some interviews obviously he was the interim GM with the Raiders when it all went to hell. Interviewed for it, didn't get it. Telesco was just way more experienced. That was a no-brainer. And then obviously it's Spytech. I would have loved to have him stick around. I totally understand. It's like, all right, I'm under a new regime. Normally guys like Champ Kelly don't last when there's giant regime changes like we saw with the Raiders. So I don't think this is an indictment of him getting fired. He didn't get a head GM job anywhere. I did still think it was early for him to get that, but rooting for him. Hope he does well wherever he goes.
He's got the scouting resume down. I just don't think he has the other parts of it. The renegotiating current player contracts, the contracts of free agent. He needs a little bit more seasoning as far as that goes. That's why I thought John Spytek was a great get, because he has extensive experience in all three of those phases.
Yeah.
Re-signing and restructuring your own cap stuff, signing new free agents, and also the drafting as well. I just think Champ Kelly is going to be that guy, just maybe a few years away. And I'm glad that he's able to go somewhere else and kind of get a fresh coat of paint on him, because he got a little stale here. You get passed over a little bit one too many times in the same place, and I don't know if it's necessarily a stigma or anything, but it's like your accomplishments do get kind of looked over a little bit. Sometimes you
Well,
just get a new fresh scenery.
well, he has assistant or interim GM stapled to his resume for the rest of his life. So you can say like, I have had GM experience. It was an interim basis. It was half a season, but I did it. I sat down with the entire scouting crew and went over every college player. I sat down in the draft war room and went over strategy. I sat across from veterans and agents and took those calls and took those text messages and sent out those calls and sent out those text messages. Like I've done it, right? Whereas a lot of these, Spy Tech never did. Like we have high hopes for him, but he has zero experience as the man in the chair. And that's why it's always really hard for me, and this goes for Spy Tech as well, same as Champ Kelly. It's always really, really hard for me to really put my finger on a GM who hasn't actually been GM, right? Assistant GM, head of player personnel, head of pro scouting. It's like, okay, until you are the decision maker, I can get some clues. You know what I mean? I can, hear what people say about you. And like, it looks like your fingerprints were on this and that, but until you're the actual decision maker, it's really hard for me to say with authority whether I think you're a good GM or not. And at least he has like, what was it? 7 months of being the guy. Like he was the guy for a brief period of time. Ready to do some, what are Windbags?
Yes, sir. Let's do it.
All right. Solomon Mitchell. Kuntz had one half of a good season. There's no way he is worth $20 million a year. What if he pulls a Zamir White and just eats a bag of dicks? He definitely deserves a prove-it year. Plus, he's coming off of an injury, so it would be extra stupid to break the bank for him. The Eagles Super Bowl win is making everyone smoke defensive opium.
I think this is a view that a lot of people share. I think it's a little short-sighted because, again, look at the context. Malcolm Kuntz was not given a chance to play extensively because the regime at the time wanted to give their first-round pick more playing time. They gave the playing time that should have gone to Malcolm Kuntz to Tyree Wilson. Mm-hmm. Once AP took over, he's like, I don't have time to develop a guy. I need to make sure I can get my best foot forward. Let me put Malcolm Kuntz in there. And once Kuntz got in there, he freaking killed it. That's the first time he was able to go in there and be the man. And I think that the injury, it's a non-contact injury. It wasn't like he got rolled up on or whatever. It's just a freak thing that happens. Again, I do agree with I think it would be better for Malcolm Kuntz. It would be better for him if he is healthy to sign a one-year deal. I would sign a one-year deal if I was him because you're going to get it back and a lot more in a better contract the following year than to sign a longer, worse contract now because you're coming off of an injury year. So it's better for him to bet on himself this season.
Yeah.
And because it's a premium 5 position, man. Edge rusher is a premium 5 position. He's going to get paid if he performs anywhere near to what he did the last 9 games of 23.
Yeah. Well, look, Solomon, not one part of what he said is false, right? Like it is all very true. Like he only had one half of one good season. These Eagles Super Bowls making everyone, go all in on defensive lines, and that's how you can do it. Coming off the injury, it could be like a Zamir White who had, he had his quarter of a season, wasn't a half a season, had like a quarter of a season to prove he's the man and looked great in that little tiny thing. So everything he's saying is true, technically. But all it takes is one team being like, we need a defensive end, and he's gonna be the guy. I do my regular Tuesday spot I do on Cofield's show in Vegas. Adam Hill was guest hosting, and Cofield was like, all right, this guy, or this guy, this guy. Like he's like naming players, and he's like, all right, are we going to keep him or not? Are we going to keep him or not? When Coots came, I said everything that Solomon said, and I said, and Adam was just like, someone's going to pay him. Someone's going to give him $40 million guaranteed for 3 years.
5 position, man.
It's like someone's like all it takes is you don't have to be worth it. You just need one team to be like, we desperately need a defensive end. He can be the guy. Let
me put a scenario past you, okay? Myles Garrett gets traded from the Browns. If you're the Browns, you draft Abdul Carter. You want to have a little bit more of a veteran presence, and your team is already built. Your defense is built on your front four getting pressure. You're already getting rid of Myles Garrett. You want to load up on your defensive line because that's how your defense is already built, unless you want to scrap the whole entire thing.
Yeah.
So that's a possibility there. I'm not saying he's going to go there, but just like that's a team that could pay a little bit more than let's say we would be willing to a little bit longer for the opportunity to be able to kind of keep that going a little bit. I'm not saying that Malcolm Kuntz is Myles Garrett by any means, but he can give you a little bit of what Myles Garrett gave you as far as the pass rushing goes. And if you can mimic similar production for a couple of guys, then because look, if you get similar production from Abdul Carter and Malcolm Kuntz as you got from Myles Garrett and his backup last season, you're not missing much in the pass rushing, area. But that's how you kind of cobblestone things. You kind of cobble things together when you are forced pretty much to get rid of a generational talent like a Myles Garrett. You kind of figure it out as you go, and they don't have a ton of cap there because of Mr. Massage Parlor has this huge contract. So they may be looking to get just a little bit more, or maybe an extra year to Kuntz to be able to entice him to come over.
I'll repeat what I said last week. This is with the amount of cap space that we have and the focus on the defensive line. If we do let him walk, quote unquote, I think we're going to try to keep him. But if someone offers him a ton, this is the rare instance where it's like, I'm going to have to just side and assume the Raiders know what they're talking about because they have all of his medical records. Like they know exactly the extent of that injury. And if they're like, we love you, Malcolm, we think you're the man, but we're not going to give you $20 million a year when we're really not sure about that leg. We just can't take the risk. There hasn't been a lot of situations where I'm like, trust the Raiders. Just trust McDaniels, trust Gruden, trust Mayock. They know what they're doing personnel-wise. Just trust. Very rarely do I do that. In this instance, I'm going to say, okay, some information I'm not privy to. If you have to let him walk and he's getting that much, okay, I get it. Ken Kress, 3665. If the Vikings don't want them after a 14-win season, they know something. Don't fucking hire him. Obviously talking about Sam Darnold.
Yeah, not necessarily.
Not even kind of. Not even remotely true. You have two quarterbacks.
Yeah, you have JJ McCarthy, and depending on how you feel about Daniel Jones, like I was saying, Daniel Jones has a better resume as a quarterback than Sam Darnold did when they signed him last season. And it's not always you got to keep you have to eventually move on, and you have to eventually put your plan into place. And if the plan was to have Sam Darnold for a year, and they obviously saw something in Sam Darnold, which is the reason why they signed him as the bridge quarterback. They knew that it was a great possibility, injury or not, that Sam Darnold would have to start the season as a starting quarterback. It wasn't like they were trying to punt on the year. You don't pay a Justin Jefferson the money that they were paying him and punt on the year, right? So they felt that Sam Darnold could win them games, but he's not a long-term answer for them. It's at some point you have to move on with the plan that you have.
The Vikings are in the Graceland everyone wants. A playoff caliber team with a rookie quarterback, not a rookie quarterback, but a second-year quarterback on a rookie deal. So if J.J. McCarthy can play similar to Sam Darnold, and if the Vikings feel that way, that's supposed to be $50 million a year for your starting NFL quarterback. Like with this new cap, with the new cap that's coming up, the price goes up every year. Your starting caliber NFL quarterback, you're looking at $40-50 million a year. And you don't have to worry about that for another 3 seasons. You can put that $40-50 million a year all over the rest of the roster and go in a Super Bowl. Like the Vikings are poised to have that. Paying Sam Darnold $150 million guaranteed for the next 4 years, it's like, okay, you have a good quarterback, great. Like you're not in a look. The Vikings are in an envious position. You either pay the guy that you know is good, and you have a good quarterback moving forward, or you say we can have a rookie deal quarterback that we think could be just as good, and an extra $50 million a year to make sure our linebackers run 4.6s. Like that's where you want to be. That is always the goal, is playoff Super Bowl ready team with a quarterback on a rookie pay scale.
Yeah, they have it set up. They have it set up already, and I don't know that they think Sam Darnold is Sam Darnold is more valuable to us because of our quarterback situation than he is to the Vikings because of their situation. That's just the bottom line.
Raider Ghost 7150. I laughed at this one. Not drafting Jalen Carter ended up being a blessing in disguise for Raiders fans. He elevated the Eagles' D-line and prevented the Queefs from winning the Super Bowl. That did take some of the sting off. Watching Jalen Carter this last couple seasons go hog wild, it was like, he helped the Chiefs not win the Super. Like he manhandled the Chiefs. It's like it was beautiful. It's like, okay, if you're not going to play for us, at least you're making Patrick Mahomes walk funny for the next couple of weeks because you're mauling him so much.
Yeah, I still can't jump on board with that. I still can't do it.
I still wish we had him.
I tried to be optimistic, man. I tried to be optimistic about Tyree Wilson. It just was not. It's Christian Darrisaw and Leatherwood all over again, dude. All over again. I think we all. I mean, I know you remember. I was like, dude, what? Christian Darrisaw's right there. What are you doing? Mm-hmm. Man, those two guys. Imagine that, dude. Imagine Christian Darrisaw on the offensive line, Jalen Carter on the defensive line. And it wasn't like we had to trade a bunch of picks for him or anything. Like that's just what should have happened.
It's like watching, you're banging the homecoming queen in high school for a little bit, and then you kind of fucked it up. You know what I mean? You got drunk one night, didn't call her, you screwed up, and then she goes off and like cures cancer. You're like, well, it's great that you cured cancer. It'd be better if you were making my dick wet. I mean, that's more important than ridding the world of cancer, but at least you have a little bit of a soft landing spot. You can take the edge off a little bit, just a little bit.
I'd say every time someone brings up that name, man.
I thought I was the only one. I was pissed that I was the second we passed on. I was like, God.
Yeah, that. Well, Christian Darrisaw on that one, dude. That was a tough one for me.
Bummer. All right. That's it for us. We'll be back next week. If anything crazy happens in the next, from now until next Thursday, we'll go live. Hell, maybe we'll go live anyway because we're crazy like that. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.